Hi, I am Dana K. White, and I am the author of several books, including Decluttering at the Speed of Life, and we're doing a decluttering Q&A today. I talk about all things home management, but I'm excited that you're here. Technically, as I'm speaking right now, okay, now there's 37 people here. At first it was saying 0, and I was like, there's no one here. I am answering questions for the first half that have been submitted ahead of time at askdanakWhite.com. I know that not everyone can show up on time or live at these, partly because I'm not great at telling you very far ahead and consistently that I'm doing them. I try to do them Tuesday at noon Central, but life happens right around that. And so things either get moved or canceled or whatever. But you can go to askdanakWhite.com and ask questions for future lives. I will take questions from those watching for probably the second half. Okay, so in about 30 minutes. So I'll do some of these questions first. Just wanted to remind you of a few things. Yay, so glad y'all are here. I do now have coaches, and we have, I think, 32 coaches now certified. So you can get personal help if you need them. These are my coaches. Sometimes people will say like, oh, well, how do we know which ones at declutteringcoaches.com are your coaches? I'm like, oh, they're all my coaches. That is my site. I own it. So I am excited. I've got them trained in my methods, my unique no mess decluttering process. And so you can hire someone to help you through it. There may be someone in your area who can come to your home. That's what we're working on, is getting people everywhere. Or you can do online coaching. Most of the coaches also offer online coaching. So, all right, let's get started with our first question. So what I'm going to do is I will read the actual question as it was written. And what you see here is a shortened version, just to kind of, be able to keep on track. But I want to read the whole thing because, sometimes there's details and things that didn't fit there. All right, this one, kids' clothes. I have been throwing all old clothes into bins and shoving them into the attic. I know I need to declutter big time, go through and trash/donate a good amount of stuff. Any advice you could offer on how to organize the rest that I am keeping for future children by gender, size, season? Thinking about it makes my brain hurt. Okay. Very, very common struggle, right? If you know that there will be, if you hope that there will be future children, then it feels like everything should be kept, right? Like, wouldn't it be wrong of us to get rid of things when we would be able to use it in the future? But the same principles still apply. So I have my 5-step decluttering process. You can get a printable of that. It's in my books and stuff. You can get a free printable signing up for my newsletter at aslobcomesclean.com/5. And we apply this to the same thing. It's easier with kids' clothes than it is for, just your regular closet. You can still absolutely apply the process to that. But let's kind of dive into this question a little bit. All right. So in the actual one that I had, the full question, she said, I've been throwing all old clothes into bins and shoving them into the attic. So what all this is going to come down to in my answer is apply the container concept. Okay. The container concept is this: space is finite. If you try to keep more stuff than will fit usably and comfortably, manageably in your space, there is no hope of your space ever being under control, especially never staying under control, right? So you have to embrace the realities of the space that you have. Top priority thing that deserves space in your home is your current family who's actually living in it right now and what they need to be able to function. Not talking about what stuff they need. What do they need to be able to function? They need space to be able to function. Okay. So all of that is going to play into this. But, like I said, the actual question says, I have been throwing all old clothes into bins and shoving them into the attic. That means that it does not feel like there's a limit to how much you can keep. And I'm not saying like, this is what I'm observing. I'm saying for you, my guess is it doesn't feel like there's a limit. It's like, well, there's attic space and all these things are useful. but you're at a completely overwhelmed point, right? Like you have more than is going to be easy for you to go through. My guess is you have young children, you're super busy. Like you said, it makes my brain hurt. Like it's painful to think about what I'm going to have to do. So I'm not saying this is what you should have done. I'm just saying this for everybody and for as you go forward. Okay. The beauty of the container concept is that there is a limit. It will literally make every item that you keep look different to you. You knowing that there is a limit means you don't just throw everything into bins. And I'm not saying like, don't throw everything into bins. I'm saying it just naturally knowing there's a limit, even before I'm at the limit, just knowing that this is the space that I have to devote to it. And maybe it is in the attic, but you're overwhelmed. And so you may have more in your attic, but you say, okay, this is the space in the attic that I can easily access that, isn't taking up the room that we need for our Christmas decor or other things that go in the attic. This is the space. This is what I can manage. I'm going to have this many bins. If you have, honestly, if you just want my advice would be keep, if you're going to keep stuff, keep a bin for boys' clothes and a bin for girls' clothes. So you have, what you're going to need for any situation. But you having that space, the containers you can keep of stuff for future kids is determined by the space that you have to devote to those containers. And that space is not needed for the everyday life that you're living, the actual kids who are, wearing clothes and using toys and all that kind of stuff. So what I mean by that is I had to make a choice that I am not going to fill up a room with all these things for future possibilities. And then my kids who are now, past this age, and then my kids not have space to play. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to give priority to a room packed full of bins and then my kids not have any room to play. Okay. So it's like after the people who are living there right now, currently, not the maybe in the future stuff, but the people actually function in the home, after they have what they need as far as space, what space is left for you to store for the future. And then according to that space, that's how many bins you can have. But just having the bins, just knowing there is a limit, I'm not just going to keep putting stuff up in the attic, that will change how everything that goes into a bin looks, because you're like, well, I can't just keep everything. Okay. You can keep anything, but you can't keep everything and your house stay under control. So as you do this, you're putting things in there and it will just naturally, it's not painful like people assume it's going to be. It just naturally, as you're starting to put something into this limited space, you will realize, I can't stand this outfit. Or every kid of mine who has worn this outfit has cried until I took it off of them because it was clearly itchy or whatever. This one has poop stains that have still never come out, and I've washed it a million times. It's not going to magically come out, while it's sitting in this box. And so all of that, just having a limit makes things easier to get rid of, because you're like, well, I'm going to keep things, but I can't keep it all. And if I'm not going to keep it all, this can definitely go. And I'm just telling you, it really eases that. But what do you do with the ones that are in the attic right now? Because I know that's part of your question, but I think it's really important to talk about that. How are we functioning as far as storing things for the future? Because this is going to continue to be, where you are. What I would do is designate, this is the space that we have. Okay. We are not just going to let the attic be an endless, shoving area. I'm going to say, this is going to be the space that we have. These are the tubs that I have. These are the ones. Okay. This is what I'm going to fill. And then box by box of the stuff that's already up there, you go through and what deserves space in these limited containers versus not. And it's going to naturally, sort out. You may also want to, if you're completely overwhelmed, go through with trash in mind first. Like I'm going to pull out just the gross, ripped, stained, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why I stuck it in there. I'm not going to worry about why I stuck it in there, but I'm going to get all that stuff out first, put that in the rag bin or whatever. And then I'm going to get rid of the easy stuff. Like, okay, wait, I'm going to get rid of the declutter. I'm sorry. Like anything in here that, actually I don't like, of course I'm going to get, doing that. And then going through and saying, does this deserve space in the limited, containers that we have? So letting it be a process, knowing, and I think too, what you're saying here is, should I organize them by gender, season, size? Once you have it down to, I'm only going to keep what is manageable for me in this space, I don't think there's a need, unless you want to, unless it's your personality and you enjoy it. I don't think there's a need to do this extreme detailed organization system. Because in reality, and you probably know this because you've had other kids, you don't need as much as you think you do. But sometimes you want to keep everything going, well, but what if I don't know what I'll need or what I'll want? So instead, if you have it limited like that, it's not going to be as overwhelming. Part of the reason why you feel the need to be very detailed in the organizing of it is you're so overwhelmed by the sheer volume. Having a much smaller volume, like a much smaller amount of stuff, you're not going to feel as overwhelmed, and you're going to be like, oh, okay, if I've only got 2 bins of kids' clothes, then it's going to be, it's not as overwhelming, and you just don't feel this need to do that, because it's like, well, I can look through the whole, bin or whatever. It might be according to different age groups or whatever. So you might, depending on what your family makeup looks like, it might be, okay, these are 2 bins for baby. This is 2 bins for toddler. This is 2 bins for, young kids. But we also know styles change, right? I mean, my daughter did not want to wear stuff, even when she was like a year and a half old. I know I've told this story, but I pulled out a dress that was my, and we're not like super fashionable people. Y'all know that because you've seen me. But I pulled out this dress that had been my niece's. So my niece is like 23 now. My daughter's 16. So, it had been hers, and it might have been a hand-me-down from her other cousin or something at some point. But it was probably a dress that was 6 or 7, maybe 10 years old. And it was fine. I thought it was cute. It definitely was not the current style. And I remember my daughter was a year and a half old, and I pulled that dress out and I said, hey, do you want to wear this? And she goes, no. And I was like, what? So I'm just saying, styles really do change. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, I thought my kids were stylish, but when I compare it to now, it looks nothing like what kids are wearing now, right? So, and I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying, whatever. You do what you want to do. I'm just saying, make it limited. If you don't have the space to do things according to different sections, then you only maybe get a bin per. If you don't have the space at all, then you say, you know what, the thrift store is my storage unit, and I'm going to donate these things. And then I will have all this open space for the next 3 years. And then when my kid comes along, I will, go to the thrift store. And this is all like a way of thinking. I'm not saying actually you're paying it, but I'm saying, like, I'll go to the thrift store and buy what I need, and I'll think of the money that I spent there as, the rent that I paid to store-ish these things. That's a way of thinking things. That was from Tish Oxenreider. I don't know what her blog is called now. I don't think she actually blogs anymore. But I had heard her say that on a podcast one time, and I was like, yeah, she thinks of the thrift store as her storage unit that she may or may not have to pay for, meaning like, I'm going to go ahead and donate this because it's something I can get at a thrift store in the future. I'm going to go ahead and donate this because I can go to garage sales. Y'all, my daughter, this was back when, before I started all this process of deslobifying, but my daughter had a lot of clothes because I would go to a garage sale that had a lot of cute baby clothes, and I buy everything. I had issues. Okay. That's how I got to this point, but hey, now I've written the book, so I guess it's all right. Right. Okay. Next question. Let me get it. Oh, I'm trying to get it over here too. My mouse is not being nice. Okay, so I will read the full question, and then here's the truncated version. I am helping my mother declutter. She wants to declutter, but she is a detailed and a visual organizer, so all of her stuff stays on top of surfaces. Otherwise, she forgets where they are. We have been putting things in cabinets and putting labels, but we cannot label every single item thing, of course. And because where she would look first is on the table, on top of that cabinet, etc. When we put things inside cabinets, she can't find anything anymore, despite labels, especially when we do big organizing, like one full day. We move so much stuff that she afterwards doesn't remember anymore what is there, what to do. She is starting to have negative feelings about decluttering because it's creating chaos in her stuff and she can't find her things afterwards. Thank you. Okay, so I have a podcast coming up soon. Let me just look at my schedule real quick. Oh, it's not pulled up. Okay. But I have one soon. I've pre-recorded, because I've got some things going on, where I basically talk about this issue, okay, in great detail. So be looking for that. It will come out in the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure which week it comes out. Couple of things here. All right. If she is overwhelmed, I'm just going to say it. If she's overwhelmed, she's not actually a detailed and visual organizer. And I think that can become an excuse to people. They're like, oh, well, I need to see everything. I mean, this is what the whole podcast is about. It's like, I need to be able to see everything. I thought that too, right? And yet my house was a disaster. So the first thing to do is, you mentioned that her answer to where would I look for it first is on the table on top of that cabinet. Okay. So the reality with that is, when someone answers that way, then you say, okay, our goal is to not have the table, is to have the table not be covered and to not have the top of the cabinet covered. So if her answer is on that table, then okay, if this table was clear the way that we're working toward it being, like that's our goal, is for this table to be clear, where would you look for it first? And then you put it there. Okay. And then you follow all the other steps in the process too, getting rid of the trash, getting the declutter out, all those things before you're ever making any decision, right? Because as you do that, it's going to be less overwhelming. And then when she can't find something, say, okay, just go to the first place where you would look. Try to, in your head, say, where's the first place where I would look for this? Go to that place. It is going to be there most of the time. And as she does that, she'll start to have confidence in that, okay? Just because someone wants to be super detailed and wants to have labels and thinks that's a great idea, we are not doing that in my process, okay? The other thing too is, you mentioned organizing and decluttering. Do not worry about organizing first. Just worry about the decluttering. Just worry about, don't even worry, okay? Just work through the decluttering process. Get the trash out first. Then do the easy stuff to the homes where, yes, she knows already. Like, she doesn't have to ask herself any questions. You're not making any decisions. Easy stuff. It has an established home. Let's get that stuff out of here too. And to its actual home that's already established. Let's get rid of donations. Then let's move through the decluttering process, the two decluttering questions. Okay. Meaning, if I needed this item, where would I look for it first? Go take it there. Don't let a messy space out in the open be an option, okay? Because she will, the reason that she puts things out, this was me, okay? The reason I would leave things out is I was like, I've got to remember that. I've got to remember that. But that didn't work. Like, my house was a disaster and I would leave it out, and then other things would pile on top of it. And then I didn't know where anything was. So that was not working for me. Okay. So even though I was saying, because it seemed logical and it felt logical, that if I put it away, then I won't remember it, except that I was putting things away according to being super logical. So really narrow in on that, Mom. Mom, I think you're thinking too hard. We're not trying to figure out a home for things. Instead, let's work on this instinct thing. Where would you look for it first? Like, don't be embarrassed if it's a weird place. Where would you look for it first? And that's where we're going to put it. Then you're going to start to build that trust and all that. But anyway, this is like I said, I think I talked for 40 minutes on this exact subject, because it's something that I'm hearing from people a lot lately, is they're calling themselves a visual organizer, and yet their visual spaces are not organized. Okay. And so let's take the organizing out, and let's say, even if I am a visual organizer, I still have to declutter first. Everybody will tell you that. Okay. Everybody who talks about organizing will be like, well, of course you have to declutter first. The problem with a lot of people like me is they're not picturing what we're dealing with. So they're like, oh yeah, declutter first and then let's organize. Or doesn't everybody know that you have to declutter first? And where I didn't know that you had to declutter first, I thought I was going to keep all my stuff and just come up with this super detailed system that I wanted. I wanted a detailed system. It just never actually functioned that way. I was not able to maintain it. Instead, by saying, I'm just going to declutter and going through the process, which I eventually developed, but going through that process, that's how I realized, oh, I am more organized just by having less stuff. Anyway, so next one. No one talks about digital decluttering, organizing emails, files, etc. Did I miss a video from you or someone else, former IT person who digitally declutters at times? I just doubt. Sorry, I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing and it was my own YouTube channel. And that was my little video that auto plays. Sorry about that. I bet you on YouTube somebody talks about it. Yeah. I actually have a video that we were not able to get done before Reed left. So it will not come out this year, but it should come out next year. So just wait. No, I'm just kidding. Where I talk about my system for getting deleting a bunch of emails at one time. I have a blog post on that. If you will search, if you'll Google deleting in Gmail, a slob comes clean, you'll find it. Okay. I have a post where I talk through that, and I have a system for that works really, really well for my personality type because I tend to get overwhelmed by email. So anyway, as far as all of that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, folders in my phone is how I, do pictures, lots and lots of folders using the favoriting feature. There's lots of apps and things like that. Google Docs is my best friend as far as keeping that kind of stuff. And Google Spreadsheets are my favorite thing. But anyway, I just wanted to challenge the whole no one talks about it. I bet you somebody does. Yeah. Okay. Half of the basement. Oh, I'm going to read the whole question. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I would definitely want to read this. Space is not the issue! Exclamation point. Following your methods, our home is now super functional. Woo! Except for our enormous, that's all caps. Enormous is in all caps. Okay. Unfinished basement. My quasi-hoarder husband cannot bear the thought of donating, trashing anything that he might be able to sell at a garage sale for $1. That means that even though we no longer have use for it, it remains because the container concept allows for it. Half of the basement is perpetually set up for a garage sale so he can have one at a moment's notice. Reality equals once a year. There's a lot of cities that will not let you have it more than once a year. So I'm saying reality of once a year is also way better. Okay, I'm answering. Anyway, it's way better than a lot of people's husbands. I'm just saying. I see this as unmanageable clutter and more akin to a dumping ground and a safety net for past decisions. I don't want to have to keep managing the same stuff over and over. Any advice on finding compromise? Okay, so let's talk about this. Space is not the issue. Don't forget that there is the container concept. That is the way to start decluttering. Acknowledge, embrace the realities of the spaces that you have. But if you declutter down to the space that you have and you still can't handle it, you meaning the people who actually function in that space and who are in charge of that space, then remember clutter threshold. You keep decluttering until you can handle it. But I do want to say something here. You said you have an enormous basement. And I'm just going to say, if he's having a garage sale once a year, like I said, there's a lot of people who wish their husbands would actually have the garage sale that they're holding stuff on for, holding on to stuff for. That's the word. So I'm just going to say, is this space needed for something else, or is this his thing he likes to do? is it bleeding into other things? It's kind of like anytime in a relationship where people ask me about clutter, I always say, give them a space, give them a container. You don't have to explain the container concept, but give them a space and say, hey, this space right here, I know such and such is important to you. So I have designated this space. Maybe I cleared out my own stuff, whatever, and said, this is the space for your hobby, your things that are important to you. Okay. That's one of the best ways in a relationship to have this compromise, to say, this is the space for that. And so I'm, it's his house too, right? So, like that's the space that we don't need for other things. And the reason I'm saying this is you yourself said it was an enormous basement. So designating a part of that basement, maybe it's blocked off with screens. I'm not sure how it's set up, but it's something where it's like, this is the space for that. And that naturally will, and we need the rest of the space for our family space, whatever it is that we do here. So, that's the space for that. Just like we were talking about with the kids' clothes, just knowing there's a limit to the space will often make you realize, oh, wait, I would not actually end up putting this out in the garage sale because it's trash, or whatever. So I'm going to get rid of that. So just acknowledging that it's a space for that and letting that space be a container, and giving him that container. Okay. That's one of the best things, like a way for us to have this compromise. So I don't know that it's in here in the abbreviated version, but she's specifically talking about her husband is the one setting it up for a garage sale, and it drives her crazy. Okay. But she also did mention he does have these garage sales once a year. The other thing I would encourage is, and this is hard, okay, because I'm not acting like, oh, just say this and it'll all be solved. But, really try to emphasize and help with the, if it doesn't sell, it doesn't come back in the house. I know he's not the one asking this question. You are, and he has his own way that he's been doing garage sales. But like, that's hard for some people, and yet it is so crucial for things. But also, even having the designated space, the contained space is going to help with that. Some, you're going to be getting rid of some other things, but I don't know. I don't feel like I'm being very clear here, but okay. All right, I'm going to go back and look at the other thing, because I think the husband part of here is really important. So half of the basement is perpetually set for a garage sale, so he can have one at a moment's notice. I see this as unmanageable clutter and more akin to a dumping ground and a safety net for past decisions. I think that may be one of those things where if it's a container, especially when you are giving a container to a family member and you're saying, hey, this space is for this thing that's important to you, I think it's really important to let them be the one to fill that space. Like if this is his thing, it's like, okay, I know this is important to you. This is the space that, I've cleared out my stuff so that you can have this for that. But that's going to be the limit to this. So anything that doesn't fit can't, we can't hold on to it. Letting that, letting go of this whole, I see this as unmanageable clutter, because it's kind of his thing. His thing is the garage sales. I don't know. But also no, it's tough. It's tough, but this may also be fun for him, right? Like I loved that kind of stuff when I was into this sort of thing. Okay. I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job on that. All right, next one. Here we go. I'm 10 weeks along with our fourth baby. That was back in, not me, the commenter. That was back in September. So congratulations on getting ready to give birth as I'm answering your question. Anyway, she says, I'm 10 weeks along with our fourth baby. Yay. My 3 older children are 4, 3, and 1. Whew, that's her words. I'd like to do more with chores for the 4 and 3-year-olds, but my brain is first trimester mush, and I'm having trouble coming up with ways that can keep our small home running. 4-year-old helps put silverware away, and they clean up toys in the evening. I know every kid's ability is a little different, but suggestions will be great. Okay, so the reality of kids at that age is it is it's you managing it. Okay. So you have to consider, what energy threshold bandwidth do I personally have right now at my current stage for managing this with the kids. Okay. So keeping it as simple as possible, not complicated. The best thing for them to do is the 5-minute pickup. I mean, like, and you already said he's picking up at night, or she, I didn't catch that, or I don't remember. But the 5-minute pickup is everything. Like, and a 4 and 3-year-old can absolutely do a 5-minute pickup. The 5-minute pickup, the beauty of that too, is a 5-minute pickup done every day, almost every day, 4 times a day if needed. That's what keeps that's what gets a house under control and keeps a house under control. Okay. For you, it's really narrowing down, instead of all these big ideas of things I wish I could do, because, I mean, now you're about to have the baby, I'm guessing. And so that's a whole nother similar type, exhaustion, bandwidth kind of situation. So go into this with this idea that I'm going to really narrow it down to the most basics. What are the most basics? Doing the dishes and doing a 5-minute pickup. Doing the dishes, and how can the kids help on that? Great. Like, you've got one who is putting the silverware away. Maybe somebody else is in charge of putting the lids on the food storage containers, because y'all know that's how I store mine and how I recommend that you store yours. Like, we have those, helping with that, but also knowing in your current situation, stage of life, you're pregnant, you're exhausted, then you want to identify what are the things that when I can't get anything else done, if I will get these things done, it will keep things running and under control. And I'm just telling you, it's the dishes and the 5-minute pickup, but really focus in on that 5-minute pickup. And it's not fun in the beginning. In the beginning, it's mostly training, and that's what you're doing here all the time. But the more often they do it, the better it's going to get. And then it starts to become really helpful to you. Okay. I think I have one more question for today. Did I ever check to make sure that y'all are not saying, Dana, we can't hear you? I don't see anyone saying that. So yeah, somebody says pick your battles. Yes, absolutely. I've been asked, okay, let me read the whole question. Sorry. I've been asked by someone to help them get organized because I'm organized. I'm not, though. I have just decluttered a lot the past few years following you and Dawn's advice and the Take Your House Back course. They are into, the person she's helping, they are into eBay selling. And so there is an inventory issue, but I am not sure decluttering is even necessary in their mind. What are some tips to help get them to consider that decluttering might be necessary? I know what helped me decluttering is truly what they need, but I've been asked to help organize, which I'm afraid means to them they don't have the intention of letting things go. Thanks for any tips and advice. I think maybe starting with your book as something that helped me might be a way to get them started, maybe. Okay, here's what I will say on this. I feel like you answered your own question, except that it didn't. I think you just need to tell them. Say, when they say, clearly they have asked you to help them get organized because you're so organized. Just say, you know what? Actually, I just decluttered. I mean, that's basically what I do here, right? Is I just say, I just decluttered. Here's my personal experience. You think I look organized, and I am compared to what I used to be, like, 1,000 bajillion times more organized than I used to be. And yet, really what I did was declutter. Decluttering was the actual thing that I had to do. And so just tell them, say, this is what I'm qualified to talk about because this is what I actually did. I just decluttered. That is how I achieved organizing. And so just letting them know that, even if it makes them go, oh, okay, then I don't want your help, it's still going to percolate in their brain, right? Like, she's saying that's all she did was just declutter. That can't be, okay. And then maybe say, hey, here's Dana's book. This is the woman whose process I follow that made such a big difference for me. Here's the book, so using your own experience, because it feels like, when you say, like, I'm not organized, and that's not in the little abbreviated version here, but like you said, she's asking me because she thinks I'm organized, but I'm not. I just declutter. Just tell her that. Like, explain that. Say, this is the thing that happened. And that's what I can help you do, because that's what I've done. And it has achieved in my home what I always thought I wanted through organizing. and then hand them the book. Buy 5 more copies and hand them to all your friends. That's my real advice for all of this. Just kidding. Or get at the library, whatever. All right. I'm going to take some questions from those of you who are watching live. If you have already asked a question, then go ahead and ask it again. And you can put some question marks at the front so that I will hopefully see it. Okay. Somebody had asked, I didn't know this was on. I didn't know until now this was on now. I know. I just put this out. I generally try for Tuesdays at noon, so you can always kind of be watching around that time. I didn't actually put it out there until like 11:30 today because I had to wash my hair. Anyway, I'm at work. Will I be able to watch the replay? Yes, absolutely. It will still live on there. Okay. Let's see. Looking for questions. I love that y'all are talking to one another and helping each other out. I don't know what y'all are saying, but it sounds like y'all are being great. Let's see. We are moving into our in-laws' old home. They still have tons of stuff they aren't willing to let go of. Y'all, I have heard a version of this question many times. And so I just want to say you're not alone. I do have a podcast where somebody went through exactly this. And we talked kind of through these things. My clutter threshold is low. Is it worth donating all my own stuff? So I'm just using their stuff. It's tough. I mean, there's so many relationship dynamics here, right? That I am not qualified to be like, oh, just do this, this, and this. I'm like, are you buying the home? Are they, letting you live in it rent free? Are they still viewing it? Is it technically their home? Is it technically your home? Is it, all these things are things to consider and that are part of this. But I would say that, if it's a fully furnished home and it's not going to be cleared out before you move in, everything of yours you put in, it needs to one in, one out, or it can't be under control, So I don't know if you can maybe involve your mother-in-law in the process, if that's something that's possible or not. And I mean, like I said, so many relationship dynamics here, right? Like so many. So please take all of this and, make your own decisions according to what's best for your situation. But in order for a house to stay under control, you can't just dump in a whole nother house worth of stuff. And so it is that, but at the same time, is this temporary? I don't know. There's so many things here and it's hard. I'm not saying it's not, but the more you can involve your mother-in-law in that, as far as your dishes, your towels, your pots and pans and things like that, it's like, well, I'm going to, I'm, oh man, I loved these pots and pans. Remember that your aunt gave me for our wedding? But I guess I got to get rid of them if I got to keep yours here. I don't know. The other thing might be to offer to store their stuff, to pack up their stuff. I don't know. There's just so much here. There's so much here that's too much for me to answer in this situation, I don't think. But it comes down to, yeah, I mean, you can't just double the amount of stuff in a house or it will never be manageable. So let's see. Looking for questions. Okay. Any tips for decluttering clothing? I've tried, but clothing is just so hard. Go back and look at my how to declutter clothing using my 5-step process. So I have a video, I believe it came out probably September, maybe. Somewhere around in there where I talk about decluttering clothing using the 5-step decluttering process. It's the same thing. It feels a little weird because you're like, I'm calling clothing trash, but clothing's not trash. Well, but what is clothing that can't be worn because it's damaged, right? Like, so ripped things, stained things, whatever. Then the next one, and the reason that we follow this process is it eases you into it while also making progress, right? So you're not going through and immediately saying, which things do I love and hate? I don't know. Which things might I never use again? I don't know. We're not doing that. We're just saying, okay, is there anything in here that's actually trash? All right. Is there anything in here that is a donation? Okay. Okay. And you get those things out, and then you get to the harder stuff. And then you start, asking yourself, okay, where would I look for this first? I know it feels a little bit weird, except that the take it there now part of this helps me deal with stuff. I think in that video, one of the things was, it was like, okay, here is a item that was supposed to be hand washed that I had ordered, and I didn't know it was going to have to be hand washed. And so here's an item that's supposed to be hand washed. And so I had set it aside, and I was like, okay, where would I look for this first? Well, in the closet. Okay, then I have to put it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to put it in the closet because I'm supposed to hand wash it. And I'm like, well, what's the take it there now version of that for me? Well, the take it there now version is, okay, then I need to hand wash it. And I went, oh, I'm not willing to hand wash it. And so I stuck it in the donate box, right? I had bought it used on, I think it was on ThreadUp. And so if it was clean enough for them to sell it and I had never worn it, I didn't feel bad about just sticking it into the donate box. But go through that process. Go watch that video on that. That would help. Oh, yeah, I just answered that. Okay, I'm working to declutter. I mean, I'm going to say I answered it, but not really, right? Like, it's a tough situation, but it's also exciting, right? Like, you got a house. Like, this is super exciting. So it's kind of like, this is a wonderful situation where you're moving into your in-laws house. You have a place to go, but at the same time, it's, challenging. So I'm working to declutter a craft room, yet I am struggling to find space. Okay. So the space that you have is the space that you have. And so if you are short on space, you need to have less stuff. Okay. So go into the whole process with the idea that I have got to get rid of stuff. The only way that this room is going to be functional is if I don't have more than will actually fit functionally, usably, get toably in this space. So go into it with I'm going to have to get rid of some things. So start with the process. Make sure you're doing the trash first. Okay. So I'm going to look for trash. I'm going to get rid of trash. I'm going to do this because every piece of trash, whether that's actual trash, like a granola bar wrapper, or if it's, oh, wait, why did I keep all the trimmed off pieces of the foam stuff? Wait, that's actually trash. Anything like that, anything that leaves is creating space in this room, right? Because once it's gone, it leaves space behind. So let it say, what can be trash in here? Because that's going to be easy and decision free and is going to create space in here. What in this space actually is easy and actually belongs somewhere else. Okay, I'm going to get that out of here. Everything that leaves, it creates space in this room, right? And then I'm going to, anything in here that's donations, this whole set of items for a craft that I tried and I actually don't even like, but it's all these I didn't even like doing, and I'm never going to do it again. And it's actually specialty items, and I bought all this stuff and it's in a huge tub. Oh, wait, actually, now that I'm looking at things and saying, what is a donation? I identify this and it leaves and it creates space, right? So all of that then is going to create space with those first three steps that then you go into where would I look for this first? And with each individual item at this point, because you've gotten all that first three step stuff out of there, where would I look for, I don't know, where would I look for a crochet hook first? Okay, I would look for it first in that drawer over there. All right. Okay, so I take it to that drawer. I take it there now. It's not for the future. I don't just go, oh, well, there's probably no room in there, so I'll set it aside until I come up with another solution. No, if I would look for it first in that drawer, I'm going to take it there now. And if there's no room, I'm going to say, okay, well, I know I have to declutter. In order to have space, I've got to declutter. So what in this drawer where I would look first for this crochet hook, what in this drawer am I willing to get rid of in order to create the space for this crochet hook? Oh, wait, there's actually trash, some kind of packaging or whatever in this drawer. I can get rid of that, stick it in the trash bag, and then now I have space for it and it's in its home. Okay, so I'm creating space as I go. The other thing that often happens is I say, oh, well, I would look for my crochet hook in that drawer right there. And I go and it's full of crochet hooks. And I realize I've got 16 other crochet hooks in exactly the same size and design. I think there's different sizes of crochet hooks, right? Anyway, I'm not claiming to know anything about crocheting, but I'm just saying, like, but as long as I'm not taking it there now, then I set it aside and nothing has actually happened and I haven't created any space and things aren't any more organized than they were before. Okay. Let's see. Thank you for your help. You're welcome. I have been diagnosed with a severe health issue that leaves me exhausted. I'm so sorry. What's the best way to get energy to declutter? Okay, great question. The best way for you to get energy to declutter is to declutter in a way that does not depend on your energy lasting. Okay, because this health issue leaves you exhausted. That is a fact. You are dealing with a new situation that you're trying to figure out your new normal at this point, right? So declutter in a way where you are going to be successful, even if you have to stop because of exhaustion, even when you have to stop because of exhaustion. So you're accepting this is my reality now. So maybe before this health issue became an issue for you, you had the energy and the personality type and the focus to be able to pull everything out, make all these piles, and then get it all perfect. Okay. Maybe that was how you did things. So now that you have this health issue, you know, if I pull everything out, that's when the exhaustion is going to hit me. And then it's going to be worse off than it was before, which is very discouraging, right? And keeps you from actually keeping on going and making real progress. So instead, use the 5-step process. Okay, I'll put this up here. Use my 5-step process that's in my books. My books you can get at slobcomesclean.com/book. If you just want the printable, or if you additionally want the printable, slobcomesclean.com/5. Basically what it is going one item at a time in order. Okay, so trash first, easy stuff, donations, which then makes the space better before you've ever had to make a single decision. You're doing things in a way where I'm acting on small things, but I'm making real unbacktrackable progress. Okay. And that will take you so much farther or further. Which one is it, y'all? Further. Right? Farther is distance. Why can I not remember this? Anyway, but yeah, that is the way, one item at a time, so that when you get exhausted, it's better. It's better. Like that's your goal. Your goal is better. Your goal is not big shebang projects anymore. It's better. But y'all, as long as I was wanting to do big shebang projects, my house stayed a total disaster. When I started focusing on better and saying, okay, I'm not going to be finished, but I am going to make real, better, unbacktrackable progress, that's when my house changed. I'm not saying it was not like giving up. Like it felt like giving up in the beginning, and yet that giving up and accepting how I roll, that and accepting my reality, that's what changed my house, where all these years of me trying to do it the right way, the very best way, my house was a total disaster. So it's like my house was better when I focused on better. Imagine that, right? Okay. Let's see. Thank you. I need you on every single call, Jennifer, every single live to be here and remind me farther and further. It will take you so much further in this process. Okay, so I was correct. Why is it so hard? Why that? And I'm a words person, y'all. Okay, what if even after you picture the catch-all space clean, you still can't answer the question, where would I look for this first? Because it has been there since you bought it, but you do use it. This is kind of like when I moved, you know, people, people are like, how can I ask where would I look for this first when I've never looked for it in this house? I'm like, well, sometimes it's a little woo-woo. Like it feels a little bit woo-woo because I'm like, if I needed my coffee mug, where would I look first for coffee mugs? Technically, I have never looked for it in this house. And so I don't know, but I don't know because it wasn't easy. And so I'm having to come up with a place. And so I'm saying, I would look for coffee mugs in that cabinet. Like if I literally had no idea where they were. So I'm not saying I'm confident they're going to be there. I'm saying if I needed it, what's the first cabinet that I would open? Not knowing where it is, where would I look first? What's the first cabinet I would open? And then that is the place where it needs to be. Okay. So let yourself answer the question without confidence. Okay. We are not coming up with a place for it. I'm saying it's not on the table. Where's my kitchen scissors? Ah! Where's the first place? What's the first drawer that I would open? Is it in here? Oh, it is in here. Ah! Like that's how this is all going to work. Anyway, I know it feels like, but I don't know. Yeah, but it works. I'm just telling you it works. Okay. Let's see. I have decluttered quite a bit and feel so much happier. Yay. I would love to declutter further. Look at you using the word correctly. Right, Jennifer? Right? Yes. I would like to declutter further, but it is getting hard to find stuff to get rid of. Any advice, please? Okay, a couple things here. Has this turned into an obsession? Is it still making your life easier to get rid of stuff or not? So, I'm just saying, like, if you're like, my house is completely and totally functional and everybody's great with how it is, maybe it's time to stop and enjoy what you have done so far. Maybe it's time to say, I'm going to take a break and live in this space for a while. And then as I live, I start to realize that over there is making my life harder to function. I'm going to focus on that space and get rid of more and more and more until it's easy to keep under control. Okay. But if you are saying this and yet things are still hard to keep under control and still, make it hard to function in your home, and you want to declutter further, but it's harder, just be ruthless. Like say, okay, I'm going to get rid of, let's say that you've kind of decluttered quite a bit and yet your space is still like furniture lining the entire walls and there's stuff inside all of that, and you're like, but I want to go farther, but technically I've decluttered a lot. Okay. Get rid of a piece of furniture. Say, I'm going to have one less container in here. And that means anything that was in there, I have to decide, does it deserve space in this place? And where would I look for it first now that this, cabinet is gone? And then as I determine, okay, if this cabinet is gone, where would I look for this first? I would look for it in that cabinet then. Okay, I go to that cabinet and I'm going to get rid of something in order to create the space for that. And so many times that getting rid of a piece of furniture is kind of that next step. And I bought a bookshelf. I'm sure I'll talk about it at some point. I bought a bookshelf and I love it. It's beautiful. It's everything I wanted it to be. But I'm like, oh, that takes up floor space. Oh, is that where I really want it? Do I really want it? And it's like, there's totally room for it, but it has changed how I've thought of things because I've gotten rid of a lot of large pieces of furniture, and it's like square footage immediately added to your home. So start thinking about if you can, if there's some stuff like that you could get rid of. Okay. Not a question, but I've decluttered 2 doom boxes, over the past couple weeks using your process and while playing your videos for body doubling. And I feel so accomplished. Thank you. I love it. So in case some of y'all are wondering what a doom box is, I think that's like a TikTok term. I'm old to say it like that, I know. But where it's basically keep boxes. It's old keep boxes where you made a box full of stuff. Oh, well, I want to keep that. I want to keep that. And you set it aside, or maybe you cleaned out a bag or something and put it all in there, and it's just sat in your closet or your garage forever. So it's basically boxes full of randomness, right? And you can get rid of it using the process. Yeah, love it. And here's the thing about a doom box is that it's overwhelming, right? Because at some point you wanted to keep all of that stuff, and so you kept it, and it's like, oh, it's going to be hard to do, but just go through the process. Trash first, easy stuff that does have an established home, move on through the process. Do you have any tips for helping someone else who has a big container and technically room to keep all their stuff embrace their clutter threshold since they have so much trouble managing it? Okay. So first step would be decluttering down to the container. Okay. So that's the first, because it's very outside of you. It's very, blame the container. It's not me, it's the container. So first step is that. If you have already done that, and defining clutter the way that I define it, which is anything that consistently gets out of control in your home. Like, so it's not that I don't like this stuff. It's not that I don't wish I could do better at it, but it's like, if it's constantly getting out of control, it's too much for me to handle. And so redefine clutter in that way and say, okay, what space is driving you the craziest? What space is getting on your nerves the most? And let's tackle that space with the idea that if you have less stuff in that space is going to be easier for you to manage. Okay. And I also just highly recommend that you really focus on those visible spaces, so they're seeing the progress that you're making and they're experiencing how much easier it is to live with less stuff, which then makes them more willing in the future. Helping kids say goodbye to things. My 4-year-old will stuff her containers until nothing can go in or out. But look, Mom, it's in the container. She's also started collecting lint. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I mean, really focus on the function, focus on the get to ability of the stuff in the container. Okay. And it kind of goes like what we were talking about before. It's like, yes, we declutter down to the container, but if it's bursting out and every time she goes to play with something, it becomes a big mess because she had to like pull everything out in order to get to it because it wasn't get toable, right? And then a 5-minute pickup is not, she can't get everything back under control in a 5-minute pickup, then we're like, oh, then that's more than you can handle. So it's like we do the container first, and then we do the, the reality of, is this something you can handle? And we determine that according to the 5-minute pickup. So really implement those 5-minute pickups. The container is hers to put in it, as long as it's safe, obviously. Whatever, it's like, okay, this is your container. You can put stuff in there. And then, oh, you want to keep that? All right, well, we got to get rid of something from the container. But if she's like shoving it in there and so it's not functional, then really start emphasizing that. Can we get everything back under control in 5 minutes? Is it easy? What is body doubling? I am not an expert in this at all, but I do know people talk about this as far as like, oh, wait, somebody answered it. Thank you. Body doubling is when you have a friend either in person or Zoom that hangs with you to encourage you to keep moving. A lot of times I think this is similar. And like I said, I don't know actually the definition or anything, but, I hear from people all the time who will tell me, I listen to your books as I declutter. Like I hear from people all the time who have listened to them 10, 12, 15 times. Okay. That's what they turn it on and they use that as something to declutter, or the videos or the podcast or whatever. Okay. Are y'all done with questions? Oh, here we go. Aunt with ASD is depressed and hoarding. Brother is about to book a declutterer. I think she won't agree. Happy to help her myself. Any advice on not upsetting family dynamics, but keeping her safe? It's tough. It really is tough. I follow the process. Follow the process. It's the most respectful way to make real progress and help someone declutter in a way that's actually going to be maintainable for them. Okay. So it may take some time, and I'm not sure which family dynamics you're talking about, your relationship with her, your relationship with other family members, whatever. But take the time. Like it's a building. I mean, like there is the trust that you're going to build with her as you get started is a huge part of the momentum that you're going to gain. Okay. And you build the trust by let's get rid of, let's look for trash and letting her be the one to determine what's trash. And then being willing to move on to the next step and really emphasizing those, where would you look for this first? Okay. Like you're not going to judge where she's going to, but you're going to go there and you're going to embrace the reality of that space. Just remember, if you are booking a declutterer, I do have decluttering coaches, right? Like that's what they do. So declutteringcoaches.com. Okay. Yes, listening to your books while I declutter is amazing. I checked the book out from the library app so many times. You just bought it for yourself. I love that. That makes me happy to hear. Let's see. Okay. I'm trying to see if I can see this. I like to draw things near me to the point that I have clutter all around me and all the drawers and closets are nearly empty. Not sure why I do it, and I can't figure out how to stop. Okay, instead of worrying about how do I stop, instead bring in the 5-minute pickup. Okay, so if this is kind of happening as you go, say, okay, I'm going to do, instead of I want to be different, say I'm going to add a 5-minute pickup into my routine. Or I'm going to add a 5-minute pickup right now. Okay. I'm going to do what I can in 5 minutes of putting those things into the places where you would look for them first if they're not all gathered around you. Okay. So that 5-minute pickup and then doing that will be the way that you combat this tendency. Okay. So I know there are people who will say, I can't help you if you don't put your stuff away right away. I'm like, well, okay, then you can't help me because I'm just never going to do that, right? Like I'm the person who just, oh, wow, how did this mess happen again? So instead of that, it's how do I combat this natural tendency that I have? I do that with a 5-minute pickup. Okay. That's how I manage that reality of myself. Let's see. Let's see. Any advice on helping a family member with mobility issues to declutter? Taking her to the clutter will be difficult and possibly unsafe. I probably need to bring things to them for decisions. Okay, that I don't really understand this situation. Are we talking about they are in the home, they can see a little bit? Can you do something over Zoom? But the take it there now is the key. Like follow the process, the 5-step process. That you can get at slobcomesclean.com/5. It's also in my books as well. But follow that process. Say, we're just going to start with trash. Okay. So we're going to, trash goes straight into the trash bag, and let's say if it's somebody who you're going into the house, they're not there anymore. You decide, are you going to say, okay, are you good with me doing trash? Or are you just going to go ahead and get rid of trash? If it's an unsafe situation, there's likely trash that maybe they wouldn't be able to identify. There's a lot here. But follow the 5-step process is basically what I want to say. Let's see. What are your best tips? My 5-step process. If you're new here, you can get that at slobcomesclean.com/5 or read it in my books. What are your best tips for decluttering and packing for a move? Also, what supplies did you find helpful when you moved? Everything to me. It was everything. And I have a video on it. It was everything to purchase, which I am cheap. I do not like spending money. I don't absolutely have to spend. And yet it was absolutely worth it to me to order a set of boxes that were designed like this is according to the website or whatever. I think I ordered them from U-Haul. A set of boxes for a 3 to 4 bedroom home because that's what we were moving into. Don't worry about what you're taking, worry about where you're going. Okay. So that is my best tip. I ordered that set of boxes and that was my container. This was the container, not like I couldn't add more boxes, but just knowing there was a limit and that my goal was to have these boxes be the limit meant that things looked different to me. So I was like, I'm not going to put something into this empty box. The box is empty at this point, but this item that's maybe not worth taking up some space in that empty box and potentially not having room down the line. So it just changed everything for me. So that is my number one tip. And, and as far as supplies, they sent packing materials with that. They sent, I think it came with tape and everything. So like, it was well worth it. I think Don't quote me on this. I think at the time it might have been around $350, which is a lot of money. And yet you spend money anyway when you move, and it was well worth it because it just helped with the whole process. So, okay. All right. There's that. Shall I declutter my 4 storage units? Yes. Okay, there you go. I did declutter 3 homes already. Last time I tried, I brought things back inside my home. I mean, it's up to you. Whatever you want to do is fine. Just know that you would attack each box with the same process. Okay, a box at a time. Oh, I'm over time. A box at a time. Like starting with the trash, get rid of the trash. Starting with the easy stuff that, oh yes, absolutely, this has a place in my home where it's supposed to be. But the key there is going to be take it there now. Okay, which means you're going to embrace the reality of whatever space you're taking it to. So if you do bring something inside your home, then it's got to have a place to be. So you immediately, instead of just like, okay, I'll figure something out later, one item at a time, because you're already paying for this unit anyway, right? You're already paying for these 4 units anyway. So are you just going to leave them there? Or are you going to bring if you bring an item into your home, and don't bring it unless you're like, no, absolutely, I absolutely know where I would look for this in my house. When you get it to the house, you take it to that spot. And then if there's no room for it there, you get rid of something in order to make the room for it. And that's how you don't clutter up your house as you're bringing stuff in from this. But if you have worked so hard on this and you're like, I don't care about that stuff, let it go. Let it go. Sell it to somebody as a whole, whatever. I mean, like, that's fine. Whatever you want to do is what you should do. I've got to go. I'm sorry. It is after my time. There we go. I just want to remind you, if it's mostly furniture, then that's big stuff that you're going to have. That's what, same person. If it's mostly furniture, that is big stuff you're going to have to get rid of for every item that you bring it in. It sounds like if you already like your house the way it is and it's mostly furniture there, I would just get rid of it, because it's not being used there either. But you do what you want to do. All of y'all do what you want to do on everything. Okay. Let's see. Just a reminder, if you are interested in joining Patreon, we have a lovely group of people who we're in a Facebook group. It's super secret. You can't find it anywhere. But that's our super secret Facebook group, and people are lovely and very supportive. And it's a great place to speak this language. The way that we talk about decluttering here is different than the way a lot of people talk about decluttering, right? I'm not the one to be like, oh, just do this. I mean, I did say, maybe you do want to get rid of stuff, but I get it. Like, I get that it's a process. I get that it's a difficult thing. The people in our Patreon group are lovely like that. And they all speak the same language. So it's very helpful if you're interested in that. And also don't forget, I now have coaches. We are now over 30 coaches. I am so proud of that. I'm super excited. And they are all trained in my decluttering process, which works extremely well in helping other people to declutter, okay, in a way that actually is functional for their home. So, okay, I'm going to stop there, and I will not be here next week. Sorry. Okay, so I'm letting you know that ahead of time. We'll not do a live next week. I have got to go do some stuff. So, okay. Actually, I won't be here for 2 weeks. Sorry. But I will talk to y'all later. Bye. Y'all have a great rest of your week.